The defender knew exactly what was about to happen. The crowd knew, his teammates knew, the coach knew. Sometimes, it seemed, even Garrincha knew. The ball would arrive at his feet. He would hesitate for the briefest moment. Then he would push it toward the touchline, accelerate, and leave another defender stumbling after empty air. Everyone knew the move. Yet somehow, nobody could stop it. For years, football's finest defenders searched for an answer. None found one. Long before he became a World Cup hero, long before Brazil called him the joy of the people, long before millions spoke his name with reverence, he was simply a poor boy with crooked legs from a factory town. A boy who should never have become a football legend? This is Simple Tales. And this is the story of Garrincha, the boy with crooked legs, and the man who carried a nation. The impossible. The story begins with a problem. In fact, several problems. Manuel Francisco dos Santos was born in 1933 in Pau Grande, a small industrial town in Brazil. His family had little money. His future seemed ordinary, and his body appeared determined to make life even harder. One leg curved inward, the other curved outward. One knee sat higher than the other. His spine was slightly deformed. Doctors looked at the child and saw limitations. Nobody looked at him and imagined a World Cup. Nobody looked at him and imagined greatness. Yet football has always loved impossibilities. As a child, Garrincha spent countless hours chasing a ball through dirt roads, empty lots, and factory fields. There were no grand stadiums, no famous coaches, no scouts standing nearby, only a boy and a game he loved. And something strange happened whenever he played. The very body that seemed flawed moved in ways nobody expected. His balance looked wrong. His running style looked awkward. His rhythm made little sense. Defenders struggled to predict him because even his movements appeared unpredictable. The weaknesses that should have held him back were becoming strengths. But nobody knew it yet. Not Brazil, not football, not even Garrincha himself. The world had not discovered the magician. It was still staring at the crooked legs. And yet, somewhere inside those factory fields, a legend was already taking shape. The question was simple. Could a boy who looked entirely unsuited for greatness force the world to see something nobody else could? Brazil was about to find out. The gift. Some players score goals. Some players win trophies. Some players become famous. Garrincha possessed something far rarer. He created wonder. As he grew older, stories began spreading beyond Pau Grande. Defenders complained that he was impossible to read. Teammates laughed at the chaos he created. Spectators returned simply to watch what he might do next. Eventually, his talent brought him to Botafogo, one of Brazil's biggest clubs. And almost immediately, football realized it had encountered something extraordinary. The stories from training became legendary. One veteran defender after another stepped forward, confident they understood how to stop the strange newcomer. One after another, they failed. They knew his favorite move. They knew which direction he preferred. They knew exactly what was coming, and they still ended up chasing shadows. Soon, the crowds arrived. Not merely to watch victories, not merely to watch goals. They came because football felt different when Garrincha touched the ball. Every attack carried possibility. Every dribble carried suspense. Every match felt as though something impossible might happen. Many players treated football like a profession. Garrincha treated it like play. The joy was obvious. And it became contagious. Brazil fell in love. The newspapers loved him. The fans adored him. Children copied him. Defenders feared him. Yet the greatest challenge of his life still waited beyond the horizon. A challenge larger than Botafogo, larger than Brazil, larger than anything he had faced before. The World Cup. The greatest test. In 1958, Brazil arrived in Sweden, carrying decades of frustration. The country had produced brilliant players. It had produced great teams. But it had never won football's greatest prize. The pressure was enormous. An entire nation dreamed of victory. Among the squad stood two extraordinary talents. One was a teenage prodigy named Pelé. The other was Garrincha. Together, they helped transform football forever. Brazil won the World Cup. The nation erupted in celebration. At last, the dream had become reality. For many players, that achievement would have defined an entire career. For Garrincha, it was merely the beginning. 4 years later, Brazil traveled to Chile to defend its crown. Expectations were immense. The champions had returned. And then disaster struck. Pelé suffered an injury. Suddenly, Brazil faced a nightmare. Its brightest star was gone. Its greatest weapon was unavailable. Across the nation, fear spread. Could Brazil survive? Could the champions defend their title? Could the dream continue? The answer rested on one man, Garrincha. This was the moment that transformed a great player into a legend. Against England, he produced one of the most celebrated performances in World Cup history. He attacked relentlessly. He tormented defenders. He scored twice. The entire English defense knew where the danger was coming from. It did not matter. Garrincha seemed unstoppable. Then came the semi-final against Chile. The hosts, a hostile crowd, an enormous occasion. Again, Garrincha rose above the pressure. Again, he delivered. Again, he dragged Brazil forward. Everywhere the ball traveled, he seemed to appear. Every attack felt dangerous. Every touch increased the sense that football itself had chosen him for this tournament. The newspapers searched for new words. Commentators struggled to describe what they were witnessing. A man with crooked legs was carrying the greatest football nation on earth. Match after match, Brazil advanced. Victory after victory followed. And when the tournament finally ended, Brazil stood atop the world once more. World champions, again. The trophy belonged to the team, but the tournament belonged to Garrincha. The impossible child had become the hero of a nation. His name entered football folklore. His legend became immortal. But legends are rarely allowed a perfect ending, and the price of greatness was already waiting. The price. The crowds continued to cheer. The stadiums remained full. The legend grew larger every year. Yet time remains undefeated. Even for heroes, the injuries accumulated. The explosive acceleration began to fade. The body that had once danced effortlessly through defenders started slowing down. The magic still appeared, but less often. The cheers remained. The love remained. The joy became harder to find. Off the field, Garrincha struggled with personal difficulties that grew increasingly severe as the years passed. The contrast became painful. Millions remembered the smiling magician, the man who embarrassed defenders, the man who made football feel beautiful. Yet the person behind the legend often fought battles invisible to the crowd. The world saw greatness. It did not always see the cost. The years moved forward. Football changed. New stars arrived. New trophies were won. New heroes emerged. And slowly, the era of Garrincha came to an end. When he died in 1983, Brazil mourned deeply. Not simply because a football player had passed away, something more profound had been lost. A piece of football's soul. The game had lost one of its purest artists. Yet some stories refused to disappear, and Garrincha's was one of them. We still tell this story. Most football matches are forgotten. Most trophies gather dust. Most records are eventually broken. Yet some players escape history. They become legends. Garrincha became one because he represented something larger than victory. He represented freedom, joy, imagination, the belief that football could be art. Decades later, another Brazilian would captivate the world with impossible tricks and an endless smile. His name was Ronaldinho. He was not Garrincha, nobody could be. But many fans recognized a familiar spark, the same unpredictability, the same delight, the same feeling that football should first and foremost be fun. That legacy continues today. Not in statistics, not in records, not even in trophies. It survives in every player who chooses creativity over caution, in every child who dribbles simply because it is enjoyable, in every football fan who falls in love with the beauty of the game. Today, many of Garrincha's greatest matches survive only in fragments of old film. The stadiums have changed. The generations have changed. The world itself has changed. Yet the stories remain. The defenders who knew exactly what was coming and failed anyway. The impossible dribbles. The World Cup hero. The boy with crooked legs. Nearly a century after his birth, he still dances through football's imagination. His final match ended long ago. His legend never did. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter in our Football Legends series.